Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." Stoicism is a philosophy made for people like us, who live in the real world. It's all about becoming stronger, happier, wiser, and more virtuous, making us better individuals, parents, and professionals. Stoics follow routines and habits every day, from sunrise to bedtime, to lead a well-lived life. These routines can guide us in our quest for a good and happy life. So, how can you be a Stoic? Here are some Stoic habits to consider. Number 6, control how you think. So what were the ideas? Well, let's break it down into simple terms. These ideas come from a philosopher named Epictetus, who wrote a short book called The Handbook. In this book, he talks about two important things. First, he says that there are some things we can control and some things we can't. And a lot of our unhappiness comes from thinking we can control things that we really can't. What can we control, according to Epictetus? Not much, actually. We can't control what happens to us. We can't control what people around us say or do. We can't even control our own bodies very well. They get hurt, they get sick, and eventually, they die, no matter what we want. The only thing we can control is how we think about things, and the judgments we make about them. This brings us to the second big idea from Epictetus. He says it's not the things themselves that make us upset, it's how we think about them. Stuff happens in life. We then decide if it's good or bad. If we think something is really bad, we get upset, sad, or angry. If we think something bad is likely to happen, we might get scared or fearful. These emotions come from the judgments we make. Things on their own don't have a value. What seems terrible to one person might be okay or even good for someone else. It's our judgments that give things value and trigger our emotions. Now, from the Stoic philosophy, we have full control over these judgments. Things happen, and they aren't inherently good or bad. It's up to us to decide how we value them. The Stoic paradox, as Epictetus describes it, is that we don't have much control over anything in the world, but we have complete control over our own happiness. Number 5, cherish the present. Marcus Aurelius penned a straightforward yet powerful reminder to himself, aiding in his quest to maintain perspective and inner balance. Run down the list of those who felt intense anger at something, the most famous, the most unfortunate, the most hated, the most whatever. Where is all that now? Smoke, dust, legend, or not even a legend? Think of all the examples, and how trivial the things we want so passionately are. It's important to understand that when we talk about passion here, we're not referring to the kind of excitement or enthusiasm you might feel for something you love. Instead, the ancient Stoics, like Don Robertson explains in his book, were discussing the idea of overcoming passions, which they called pathii. These passions refer to irrational, unhealthy, and excessive desires and emotions. A good example of this would be anger. What's crucial to remember here is that the Stoics aimed to replace these negative emotions with something better, which they called eupatei. For instance, they sought to replace excessive pleasure with joy. Now, let's get back to the main point of this discussion. It's quite simple. Remember how small you are in the grand scheme of things. In fact, remember how small most things are. Achievements may seem significant, but they can be fleeting, and your possession of them is only temporary. If everything in life is temporary, what really matters? The answer is right now. What counts is being a good person and doing the right thing in the present moment. That's what the Stoics believed was truly important. Consider Alexander the Great, known for conquering vast territories and having cities named after him. This is common knowledge. However, the Stoics would also point out that, at one point, Alexander, while drunk, got into a fight with his dearest friend Clytus and accidentally killed him. This tragic event left him devastated, unable to eat or drink for 3 days. Despite bringing in experts from all over Greece to help him cope with his grief, he couldn't find solace. So is this the hallmark of a successful life? From a personal standpoint, having your name on a map matters little if you lose perspective and harm those around you. We can learn from Alexander's mistake. Being humble, honest, and self-aware are qualities you can possess every single day of your life. You'll never have to worry about someone taking these qualities from you, or, even worse, letting negative emotions take control. If you find yourself right in the heart of the Stoic journey and loving the wisdom they bring, make sure to tap that subscribe button and become part of our Stoic Legion. Number 4. Train your mind. At first glance, it might seem like just changing your way of thinking can't really solve the tough problems people face every day. Imagine someone who struggles to put food on their table. How could a change in mindset help them? The Stoics, a group of ancient philosophers, didn't avoid this harsh reality. They understood that life can be really difficult at times. Seneca, one of the famous Stoic philosophers, knew this firsthand. He went through some very tough times, including being exiled, losing loved ones, and being forced to end his own life by Nero. He realized that it's one thing to say, "I won't let external things bother me," but it's a whole different challenge to actually follow through and remain undisturbed. So the Stoics came up with practical exercises to help people apply Stoic principles in their daily lives. Seneca, for instance, recommended reflecting on each day, paying attention to moments when you got upset about something insignificant, or reacted angrily to someone who maybe didn't deserve it. By recognizing these mistakes, he hoped to do better the next day. Marcus Aurelius, another Stoic thinker and a Roman emperor, had a different approach. Every morning he reminded himself that he would likely encounter many angry, stressed, impatient, and ungrateful people throughout the day. By preparing for this in advance, he hoped to react less negatively. He also pondered the idea that none of these people wanted to be like this on purpose. Their behavior was a result of their own misguided judgments. So, nobody chooses to be unhappy, stressed, or angry. Yet these negative feelings often stem from the way we judge and interpret things, which is something we can control. The Stoics teach us that while we can't control external events, we can control our reactions and judgments. By cultivating a mindful and rational approach to life's challenges, we can navigate adversity with greater tranquility and purpose. So, when life gets tough, remember the Stoics and their practical wisdom for a more balanced and meaningful existence. Number 3. Maintain inner delight. Marcus Aurelius wisely said, "I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinions of himself than on the opinions of others." Many of our actions are driven by our deep-seated desire to be liked and accepted by others. This need for approval has roots in our distant past, when social disapproval could lead to dire consequences, like banishment and eventual peril in the wilderness. Today, this desire for approval still plays a significant role in our lives. We invest considerable time and effort into seeking the validation of others. But what's the true cost of this relentless pursuit? We often spend money we don't have on extravagant items we don't truly need, all to impress people we may not even care about. Our career choices and lifestyle decisions are frequently influenced by how others perceive us, rather than what genuinely suits us. In this sense, we become captives to the judgments of society, paying a steep price every day, with no assurance of ever gaining true freedom. In contrast to this modern predicament, consider the example of the Roman statesman Cato. He intentionally dressed in eccentric attire and strolled barefoot in public spaces, demonstrating his independence from the opinions of others. His aim was to feel shame only when it was truly deserved, disregarding all other forms of disgrace. This philosophy empowered Cato to confront Julius Caesar, who he believed was amassing too much power. He made significant decisions based on his convictions, free from the fear of disapproval. We can draw valuable lessons from Cato's approach. It is wiser for us to lead lives that adhere to our terms and disregard the judgments of others. Genuine happiness should never be subcontracted to external validation. Number 2. Watch from the sky. Marcus often practiced an exercise known as taking the view from above, or Plato's view. This exercise encourages us to step back and see life from a higher perspective. It's like looking at a vast landscape from a mountaintop. When we do this exercise, we imagine all the millions of people, the armies, farms, weddings, divorces, births, and deaths happening on Earth. This helps us gain perspective and reminds us how small we are in the grand scheme of things. As the Stoic scholar Pierre Hadot explains, this change in perspective can alter how we see the value of things like luxury, power, war, and the everyday worries of life, making them seem less significant. But there's more to this exercise. The second, subtler point is about embracing what the Stoics call sympathia, which means recognizing our interconnectedness with all of humanity. Think of it like this. When astronaut Edgar Mitchell saw Earth from outer space, he experienced what we could call a real view from above. He felt a deep connection with all people and became intensely aware of the world's problems. This awareness inspired him to take action. Number 1. Journal brand. Blanchard wisely put in, "Few care now about the marches and countermarches of the Roman commanders. What the centuries have clung to is a notebook of thoughts by a man whose real life was largely unknown, who put down in the midnight dimness not the events of the day or the plans of the morrow, but something of far more permanent interest, the ideals and aspirations that a rare spirit lived by." Epictetus, a slave, Marcus Aurelius, an emperor, and Seneca, a powerful figure and playwright, lived vastly different lives. Despite their differences, they shared a common practice: journaling. Epictetus taught his students to embrace philosophy as a daily endeavor, urging them to record their thoughts regularly. Seneca, in contrast, found solace in nighttime journaling. When darkness enveloped his surroundings and his wife had retired to bed, he meticulously reviewed his day, examining his actions and words without reservation. He discovered that this self-reflection before sleep provided a particularly restful slumber. Meanwhile, Marcus Aurelius was the most prolific of them all, leaving behind a wealth of writings, which he appropriately titled To Himself. In Stoicism, journaling transcends the concept of a simple diary. It becomes the philosophy itself. It serves as a means of preparing for the day ahead, reflecting on the events of the past day, and reinforcing the wisdom acquired from teachers, reading, and personal experiences. Stoic teachings are not a one-time lesson. They demand continual practice, mental rumination, and most importantly, the act of writing them down to internalize their wisdom. Stoicism isn't something you grasp after reading it once. It's a lifelong journey that demands dedication, repetition, and concentration. Pierre Hadot aptly described it as spiritual exercising. The structured format of a page-a-day journal, often with monthly or weekly themes, serves as a tool to make Stoicism a daily routine. It allows individuals to review, digest, and internalize Stoic principles continuously. Epictetus believed that these writings should always be within reach, readily accessible for reference. This is precisely why a collection of Stoic wisdom, presented daily, holds such appeal. So, embracing Stoicism isn't just about understanding the philosophy. It's about putting it into practice daily. By reflecting on your actions, maintaining a journal, and cultivating resilience, you can start living like a Stoic and find greater peace and wisdom in your life. So if you found this video helpful and want more insightful content like this, please subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.